Hey everyone, welcome back to Reissued. If you're new here, my name is Andrew. Today we are heading back into the kitchen for a little decorating refresh. I'm going to be updating some of the organization and decor for that space and sharing my thoughts about reinvigorating the space with minimal cost and without making any structural or hardcore changes to the space. It feels like so often in my channel these days we're completely gutting a room, we're starting from scratch, we're doing massive projects, and I thought it would be fun to focus in on how much artwork and styling and creating a story and a space can change the vibe of a room, but with minimal tools, time, and effort. Or at least that's the plan anyway. I can't wait to get started on this today, so let's jump on in. Alright, welcome to my kitchen. So we completed the makeover in here just over a year ago. I use completed in air quotes, partly because I think that spaces can and should evolve over time, but also because I find it's funny when I go into a reveal for a video how at the last minute it feels a bit like a guest is coming over to your house and you're like cramming stuff away and you're just trying to make it look kind of good on the surface, but afterward you can't find anything and everything is actually really disorganized even though it looked good, you know? So this room is a perfect example of after so much work going into the space to put everything together, there's just kind of crap shoved everywhere. So not only is the space disorganized, but I feel like I'm just not utilizing the space in the best way that I can. So the biggest thing that we're going to be examining first is the function and the organization of the space. I'm going to pull literally everything out of here, out of all of the cabinets. I have some new drawer organizers that I'm going to try to put in. I have some new plans for possible hidden storage and organization. I've been sourcing a lot of stuff for this video over the last couple of weeks, and as much as I'd like to go in with a complete plan of how everything's gonna go together, I just really don't know. We have to get started. I have to try a bunch of things in the space. So let's get started by pulling everything out of here and seeing what we're working with. Yikes. So I'm starting by pulling everything out of the space, partly to give the room a really good deep clean. Not only do kitchens get a little bit dirty over time, but also there's like sawdust in the cabinets from when they got installed. Things that we thought at the time, oh, we'll come back and finish that later. There was just so much happening in this room. So now's the time we're gonna go through and give it that deep clean. Okay, so while removing everything at once was great in theory, that's nice on TV, I don't have any place to put stuff. So I am quickly overwhelmed by the amount of stuff that I pulled out. So what I think I'm gonna do is work in sections, just trying to clear out the lower cabinets a little bit at a time and put in my organizers and get some stuff put away. Then I think we'll focus more on the decor elements. Otherwise, this is just gonna get crazy and out of hand. Well, it already is crazy and out of hand. As I'm going through here, I'm finding a lot of redundancies, items that I have multiples of the same thing. I'm just gonna try to clear out as much of that as possible. And then some items are in areas where I stashed them early on, but later found a different place for items like that. So any items that already have a place to go, I'm gonna go ahead and put those away as well. I picked up these clear plastic drawer organizers at a store called Ollie's. It's like a liquidation store. They come in different sizes and you can kind of arrange them differently depending on the size of your drawer. Also, as I'm in the process of organizing these smaller items, I'm gonna go ahead and pull out this little IKEA organizer that I purchased in Chicago for a Krylon campaign. I did that over on Instagram. I didn't talk about that much here, but I got it at a thrift store in Chicago for $5. Did a little spray paint job on it. I love the way that it looks. I was thinking that it was gonna go in my studio, but it occurred to me that it might actually be really useful in here instead. And so I'm gonna pull that in, see if that's useful for organizing some of the smaller items, and then hopefully I'll find a good space for it on the countertop, and we can get some of the smaller items that belong in a smaller drawer up in there instead. Okay, so cleaning is taking longer than I'd hoped. Such is life. I am not one of those people that loves to watch like cleaning and reorganization videos, so I'm gonna go ahead and do a lot of this off camera, get as much as I can done tonight, and then hopefully we'll jump back in ready to talk about decor and thrifting because that's what I like. So it's 2 weeks later. I was waiting to pull everything out of the space until I started filming this video so I could shoot kind of the before. But generally, as I acquire items for a space, I just go ahead and put them in there and see how they work so I can get a sense of what's working together both design-wise and functionally. And I didn't do that at all this time. So I changed up the video schedule and bumped this one back so that I had a little bit more time to rearrange items in the space and figure out the best function and the best aesthetics. Additionally, Matt was here last weekend and he kind of changed up some of my ideas about the function of the space. He's like, Andrew, you have so much storage space here. Why are you putting so much stuff on the countertop? You need to clear that out. And so with that in mind, we're nixing the little IKEA drawer storage, and we found some new homes for certain items like kitchen towels that were clogging up the drawer space. Matt also helped me switch out the rug to this one that I got at Goodwill as a part of a Thrift With Me video that I did last year. I think this was $20. I still like the jute rug that I hand painted, but I'm wanting to warm up this space with more kind of orangey red colors, and I think the rug is really gonna help me with that. We also removed the other jute rug entirely to open up the space a bit and allow the island to move back a couple inches from the sink. So now that I've had some time to kind of collect my thoughts and come up with a plan, let me talk you through some of the problems that I was having with this space, both aesthetically and functionally. First of all, in the corner over by the pantry, I had originally just had a little thrifted stool with a plant on top of it. That plant was a key lime tree and it really requires more light, so it either needs to be in the atrium or outside. So a while back, I switched that out for this thrifted white metal cart that I got at the REISSUED for $15. It's really functional in the space. I tried it in a bunch of different spaces in my house, but I think it's gonna work really well here. However, it's looking a little dingy and the plastic wheels look super cheap, so we're gonna give that one a little makeover. Moving around the room to the kind of coffee station, I started with the coffee pot more in the middle of the countertop, but again, we're trying to free up that space. That's really our only area of extended worktop here in the kitchen, so we're gonna move the coffee pot into the little nook by the refrigerator. I think that will be more functional and also kind of tuck it away visually. Coffee time is very important in my house, and making coffee hasn't always been the most practical experience because the mugs and the coffee and everything have been stored over in the pantry, so you're just walking around the room a lot to make it happen. And so I need to find a way to kind of conceal my coffee and sugar and honey and other products like that, and also have some mugs right there at hand for easy use. Which brings me to the open shelves. I love the aesthetic of the open shelves in this kitchen, but they're really not super practical because they're not very deep. When my dad and I were building these, I didn't want them to come out too deep because I didn't want them to cast a shadow, kind of like an upper cabinet would. And additionally, they are made out of thrifted old wood that we found on Facebook Marketplace, so we were limited on the amount of depth that they could have. However, there's just not a lot that fits on these shelves. I can't get any large plates or bowls. I can't fit a large cookbook. These are like 7.5 inches and there's just not a lot that fits on there. Additionally, we did space them out quite far, which I think was the right choice for the space, but we end up with a lot of kind of dead space in between. That's part of why I've opted to put so much art in the space to kind of fill those gaps, but then the art takes up space on the shelves and it's not very practical. So we need to get creative and find a way to make these shelves work harder for the space. And then the final problem in the space is purely an aesthetic one, and that is the range hood. So when I did my kitchen reveal video, I got a ton of comments on that video. Most were very complimentary, but some people were a little bit more critical. For the most part, I could set that aside and disagree with it. However, there were some comments about the range hood feeling a little bit disproportionate or a little bit heavy for the space, and those comments kind of hit close to home because I kind of felt that way too. So after looking at this for the last year, thinking about painting it, racking my brain for solutions, I think that the problem here ultimately is that the white walls on either side of it are just so empty. Even though there's that delineation and horizontal line with the tile and the picture rail, I think that the fact that these are so white just makes that feel like a big channel of dark heaviness. So I think that maybe if we hang some art on either side, it will kind of balance that out visually. And then we're also gonna hang my terracotta lion head that I got in Sicily up on the range hood to give it a little bit more depth and contrast and interest so it doesn't feel quite so blocky in the space. I'm really hoping this works out. We have a lot to do. Let's get to work. Let's start with the rolling cart. I was going back and forth between this camo green shade and this brick red shade. I like the warmth of the red orange, but since we're going with gold wheels on this, I felt that the green shade would work best with the gold. I always struggle to choose colors when customizing an item for a space, but I've been finding it's best to go with the shade that makes the standalone item look its absolute best, and then make it work in the space with styling. After a super deep clean with Dawn soap to remove the heavy coat of yellow grease, I removed the wood top and wheels and got to painting. This camo paint was the only shade that I could find at Lowe's that wasn't super saturated, but the super matte finish of the paint was a nice bonus for making the paint look very even and elevated. Let's also give the top a good sanding, a coat of early American stain, and a butcher block oil finish. Now we can attach the wheels. These are Williams-Sonoma wheels that I got at the REISSUED for $10. We were planning to drill out the pieces that held the old wheels in, enough to attach the thick part of the wheels, but after we realized that the wheels come apart with the smaller screw, we opted to just screw that part into the plastic. This gave a nice tight hold and looks great. Let's reattach the top to finish this piece off. To round out this corner of the room, I want to add this carved wood mirror that I got at Goodwill for $15. It's looking a little beat, so I need to give it a light sanding on the rough areas and touch up the stain. I got this stain touch-up marker and fill stick for blemishes for 99 cents each at Ollie's. I didn't necessarily need these, but for that price, why not give them a try? The marker was very convenient and effective. I just drew over any light areas and blended things out with my fingers. The fill stick seemed to be too stiff to get into the deep cracks and problem areas in the way that I wanted, so I switched over to my favorite dark tinted paste wax instead. This gives the whole piece a nice even finish. The best way to hang this was to drill in between the tiles and insert a screw for the picture hanger to hook on. I'm going to reveal everything at the end of the video, so stay tuned for that. I love the copper rail that we built over the stove, so why not continue that theme around the room and build some more rails for under the shelves. I had a short length of copper pipe on hand, but I picked up some longer 3/4 inch copper pipe, 3/4 inch end caps, and these mounting brackets at Lowe's. I aged everything to match my old pipe by mixing roughly equal parts of salt and white vinegar and kind of dabbing it onto my pieces. After leaving it for a bit, I wiped away the salt crystals. This is not an exact science, and the copper-plated mounting brackets don't look amazing. I think the plating on them is super thin, so it basically wore off in this process. The last time I did this for the rail, I ended up painting it with acrylics to make it the right tone, but this time we're going with it. And after all that, I found this copper pipe at the REISSUED for under $3, so I ended up using that one instead. I can't return the one that I aged, but I like how this one looks better, so we'll go with this. My dad cut down some wood blocks that will hold the pipe away from the shelves a bit. After making the hole placement for our brackets, we pre-drilled the holes for our screws. I stained the blocks in this American walnut poly stain combo that I had left over from staining the shelves. Now let's build our rails. First we cut the pipe down to length, 2 inches shorter than each shelf. Then we can pop the end caps on, sanding the cut end if necessary. After measuring the center of the shelves depth-wise and 3 inches in on either side of the shelves, we can place our blocks and use long screws to go right through the brackets up into the shelves. Note that I added these black hooks that I got on Amazon first, since they can't open wide enough to clip on the rail afterward. Once the screws are tight, our rails are ready to go. This is such a simple and effective project. I can hang mugs over on the side by the coffee station, and some beautiful natural cleaning tools over on the drying rack. So functional, and it fills some of that visual dead space under the shelves as well. And on that note, let's fill the space under the upper shelf with this black metal wine glass rack that I got on Amazon for $20. The 2 racks came as a set, so I'll hold on to the other one in case I need it later. Now let's tackle the range hood. First, I want to hang this terracotta lion head that I picked up in Sicily last spring for 55 euros. It's looking very new and shiny, and I'd like it to feel a little bit more lived in. So after we attached the wire to the back for hanging, Matt took the lead on the aging process. He mixed together roughly equal parts of garden lime and warm water. This is not at all what I thought it would look like. We tried out different methods of application on some cheap terracotta pots, rag, sponge brush, and then a full-on dip, just wiping away the excess with the rag. The dip was my favorite since it got into the deeper grooves, but it wasn't going to be possible to dip my giant lion head in this container. So we just saturated the piece with the lime mixture however we could, and then wiped off the excess on the high points. After the lime dried, I continued to wipe it off the high points and brush it out of the deeper grooves. We want this to look as natural as possible. I love the way that the lime highlights all the little details in the sculpting. Now we can put a screw into the range hood and hang this baby. The last project before final styling is hanging the art. First, let's hang the art that's been up on the shelves to get it up off the shelves and clear up that surface area. For the pieces under the sconces, we can use command strips. I always like to use the Velcro strips since I haven't had great luck with the regular strips. This vintage Degas poster that I've had forever came from an antique store in my hometown. And this original piece is from artist Carl Bain, who used to sell his art on the street in Harlem. I passed by him almost every day on the way to the train for 5 years before I finally bought a piece just before I left New York. Let's hang the rest of the pieces from the picture rail. I got these picture rail hangers on Amazon and this light chain at the REISSUED store. After determining the right height, we can open up a link for the wire to hook onto and hang these in place. The big chain might have looked too chunky, but these are super short chains, so I think it'll be great. I got this lion poster at a winery when I was on a dance gig in Bordeaux. And I got this MC Escher print at the REISSUED store for $10. For the new art pieces on either side of the range hood, I started by thrifting the frames that I thought would work best in each location. This 16 by 20 wood and gold frame was $3.50 at Goodwill, and this unusual 12 by 36 gold frame was $13 at Goodwill. I always think that incorporating some odd-sized frames into a space just feels really luxe and customized, because it is luxe and customized, but thrifting is the perfect way to make that happen on a budget. Let's hang these ones with gold plumber's chain. I also picked up this super large wood frame at the REISSUED store for $10. When it came to choosing art for these frames, I decided to do what I did for the bathroom and find some Creative Commons art pieces on Flickr. For the smallest frame, I chose this Will H. Bradley chapbook print for its modern shapes, vague food theme, and bold red-orange tone. When looking at my mood board rendering for the space, I saw that we really needed that pop of strong red somewhere else to make the rug work. For the other two unusual sized frames, I had to get a bit more creative. I loved the bold graphic circles of these constellation maps and decided to composite them together to fill the super wide frame. But for the large piece that was going to be a major focal point in the room, I went even more custom. Matt and I are both loving these vintage moth and butterfly drawings. I guess this scientific drawing look is kind of trendy right now, but I don't care, we liked it first. I really liked this type of look with the moths arranged in a pattern, kind of like insect taxidermy, but nothing was the right size to fit my frame or enough resolution to look okay blown up on this scale. So I opted to download a bunch of smaller images and composite them, of course. I removed the backgrounds in Adobe Photo Editor and then arranged them in a symmetrical pattern, being sure to mix up the colors and scales of the patterns. I think that the blues, browns, oranges, reds, and greens in this piece are going to bring all the colors in the room together. Altogether, I spent just over $70 on these art prints, which I think is pretty good considering how large they are in the space and how important they are to the design. And now that we've gotten good at hanging art, let's hang these 3 pieces that I thrifted in Sorrento for €5 each. This was kind of janky. I'm twist tying them to the back of the plumber's chain. I think this adds a nice verticality to this corner and balances the rest of the room. These wanted to twist and swing a bit, so I used a removable adhesive putty to hold them against the wall. And finally, I want to address that really average hook that I spray painted gold to hang this wall hanging. Let's do an experiment and try to use the only good arm from the coat rack that I found out on the street a couple weeks ago. I thought the arm would look too tall and spindly by itself, so I picked up an unfinished wood plaque at Joann for just under $3. I sand it, and then stain it with a combination of espresso and early American stains. I was really trying to match the stain on the hook using what I already had, and I don't think I quite got it red enough, but it's not terrible. Maybe I'll address it again down the line. Overall, I like the size and the wood tone and the interest that this adds, but I wonder if the plaque looks a little flat. Maybe it needs some gold painted designs around the border. Let me know what you think. Now off to the plant shop with Matt. We dropped into Ace Hardware and Home Depot to pick up a few things that might add some nice color and interest to our now very bare shelves.
I think these would be a really good option for you. This is a Scindaptus pictus, and this is another version of a Scindaptus called Moonlight. I prefer the Scindaptus pictus, pictus meaning painted, hence the beautiful variegated leaves. It's a vining plant. It's really easy to take care of. It's very forgiving if you forget to water it briefly.
I need that.
Yeah.
In the end, we opted for starling ivy to eventually vine down over this thrifted gold vase, the Scindaptus pictus to eventually drape down over by the fridge, and fern moss because I love the texture. I also picked up a couple of herbs to add to my collection, sage and lemon thyme. These will likely need to move around to the atrium or outside to get enough light, since there's very little direct light in this room. My other herbs live elsewhere, and then I propagate new ones in these little jars just to give a little bit of color and texture. Plus, I love the smell of herbs in the kitchen. Alright, time for the final touches. In my original kitchen video, I talked about how elements of the space were already considered dated. The blue-gray cabinet color, the white subway tile, the wood floating shelves. I think all of those elements are actually really classic, but the styling was dating them a little bit. So I'm replacing a lot of the harsh black and white accessories with natural wood and terracotta, and balancing the cooler tones with warmer colors whenever possible. This was the very first room that I designed in my house, and I think that the groundwork that I laid for this space still holds up. But part of what was missing for me before in this room that I feel like I've learned to capture better in recent makeovers was the sense of story. I feel like I've grown from just putting beautiful things together in a space to really establishing a sense of narrative and identity in a space. So when it came to revisiting the styling in the kitchen, I looked to the heart of what I really liked in my reference images. The casual openness of a French kitchen with chic Art Deco inspired touches, the warmth and coziness of an English country kitchen with collected vintage vines that give that apothecary feel, and the industrial and rustic elements of a modern farmhouse kitchen. I was really resisting the more rustic side of my kitchen because everyone knows farmhouse is out, right? But the worn wood range hood that we made from the old back porch boards can't and shouldn't be anything other than what it is. So let's embrace the farmhouse and make it come alive with one-of-a-kind finds and real history. My final thought for a practical space like this. I'm challenging myself and you to keep it functional, but to make things beautiful wherever possible. No ugly cleaning products, hideaway items that don't work with the look. Sometimes we feel like a few outlier items won't hurt, but every detail matters, especially in an eclectic and maximalist style. So if it can be beautiful, why not make it beautiful? Alright everybody, the reveal is upon us and I cannot wait to show you the finished kitchen. There's definitely kind of an autumnal vibe going on, which I think is great year round, but it's especially good for this time of year. I cannot wait to do some cozy cooking in here this autumn. Before we hit the reveal, you know what to do. Like this video if you like this video. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more home renovation and decorating projects like this. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys soon.